news that HSBC is to buy the UK arm of collapsed Silicon Valley Bank, which is saving the taxpayer a great deal of money. Back to the papers. Where do we want to go?
Streakers.
Oh, let's go to streakers,
Yeah.
shall we?
Indecent exposure charges fall.
It's a I mean, it's quite a fun headline. I mean, streakers and flashes, etc., etc. But it's a very serious story in the Mail today, and police are still failing to take indecent exposure cases seriously, even after the murder of Sarah Everard. And we have to remember the piece of scum that killed her was also found guilty of flashing as well. And if that had been taken seriously, maybe Sarah Everard would still be with us today. But less than 7% of suspects in indecent exposure cases, and I'm not going to call it flashing because it is indecent exposure. Flashing makes it sound like some sort of Benny Hill.
Sexual assault, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's sexual assault in a form.
It is, absolutely. You're right,
You're
Sean.
talking about Wimbledon or a rugby match,
Yeah.
or where someone running onto a pitch naked.
Yeah, and no, actually, what this story is saying is that people who commit indecent exposure are treated the same way, who are sexual predators, are treated in the same way as someone who has a few beers at a rugby match and runs on the pitch.
Okay, right.
Basically, the punishment can still be the same. Whereas, as we know from the death of Sarah Everard, that is not the case, and an incredible up to 10% of people who flash indecent exposure go on to commit further sexual assaults on women.
So is the story that actually people who streak at matches, are they treated too harshly or too leniently? Because obviously sexual predators are treated the same.
Well, I mean, incredibly, only up until 2003, indecent exposure wasn't actually a criminal sexual offence. It was treated as a nuisance thing. So someone running on a rugby pitch, yeah, it's a nuisance, it's a bit of fun. So yeah, I mean, that is probably treated possibly too harshly in some cases, whereas indecent is really not taken seriously. Prosecutions are through the floor. And you know what, Isabel? I mean, you've got a young daughter. 90% of schoolgirls in a recent survey said that they have received basically the digital version of flashing these days, which is 90% of schoolgirls have received images, indecent images on their phones. And we are doing nothing about it. This has to be taken seriously.
Well, the Children's Commissioner is all over it. She's very, very worried about it. It's whether or not anyone's listening, I suppose, and whether or not this online safety bill will change the dial on it or not.
I hope so. No more Sarah Everards, please.
Just shifting to the Times, online boundaries. Police call for boys to receive lessons in online boundaries, Sean.
Yeah, this is Maggie Blythe. She is the National Police Chiefs Council lead for violence against women and girls, and she's basically proposing that kids of a primary school age should be taught about online boundaries. You know, they are coming into a world where they're immersed in social media. They've never known anything different, and that is how they communicate. And it's leading to a danger of the sharing of whether it's naked images that are being passed around or sent from one person to another, and about sort of unchecked misogyny, and basically to teach them about the consequences of this unchecked behaviour. I was actually part of a Police Scotland campaign called Don't Be That Guy, and the premise of the campaign was saying basically to interject, and before things can escalate, to kind of check your friend if he's maybe doing something wrong or behaving inappropriately or engaging in any of these behaviours. And one of the things that we spoke about was it was important to teach kids from a young age, education, prevention, and to sort of enlighten them and to let them know this is not on.
School-age kids, I mean, I understand the intention there. It's a good intention, but I actually balk at the thought of someone going into a primary school and saying to my sweet innocent child, if someone sends you a picture of a penis or whatever, I just don't want that discussion to happen, and I actually want to protect them and let them be children. I think the conversation should be around stopping them having access to phones, stopping them having access to this nonsense, rather than polluting their minds with what could happen.
Maggie Blythe, her proposal is it's young boys, and that is where the issue lies. Some people might not like that, but it comes predominantly from the male gender, and it's important to teach them as prevention and to say, this is not on, not what a young girl should do if she receives this, but to say to a boy, this is not on. Unfortunately, it's the world that we live in, and kids have access to these phones. And
that's where I think the debate should be. Kids shouldn't be having access to phones at a very young age.
I think that's a losing battle. I agree with you. I wouldn't be giving them to my kids either. But that's the way the world is going.
We have the power as parents and as adults to all stand up and say, let's not give our kids a phone. Or if they can, but I don't accept that argument. I really do believe, yes, once they get older, they can do what they want. But when they're still children,
I agree with
11, 12 years old, give them a phone so that they can make phone calls to say they're safe or text messages, no access to the internet, and let them be children.
I agree, but it's not going to happen.
I don't know.
I just don't see it happening. So I think it's better then that it's education, isn't it? And teaching kids how this is what is an acceptable way to behave. So.
Well, I'll tell you what is going to happen. I'm going to say goodbye to you two, and you're going to be here in 40 minutes' time. Dawn and Sean, it's got a ring to it, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Great double act.
Dawn and Sean.
Thank you.